1978, as my parents relaxed in the living room watching the Whatever Happened to Baby Jonathan episode of Dallas, I measured the distance from our kitchen table to the front door. And I ran a mile in the foyer, calling out each lap to my parents, each of the 377 laps that it took. And I was pretty proud of myself, and I got some acknowledgement from my parents, but to me, I thought this was the kind of thing that maybe should be written up for Sports Illustrated, and they didn't really see it that way. So while they clapped for me, I always felt that this was a running accomplishment that sort of went unacknowledged. And maybe that's why, to this day, I want to be a runner. I've tried so many times in my life. I don't have the build for it. I don't have the self-discipline for it. I really don't like it. But I feel compelled to become a runner. So I've tried again and again and again to achieve this goal. And finally, a few years ago, a very good friend of mine, Brad Gansberg, started running, lost 80 pounds, and then went on to complete a full Ironman triathlon. Then he started coaching other people on running. So he took me as one of his first guinea pigs in starting this coaching running business. And it worked. He gave me some training plans, and I did a 5K. I was slow. It took me twice as long as most of the other people, but I did it. And then I did another 5K and another 5K. And then I did a 10K, and I barely finished, but I did it. And Brad thought at that point that I was ready to set my sights on a half marathon. Or if you're in the running world, you just call it a half, which is 13 miles. So he thought I was ready to start planning for a half marathon. So I was game. I had some reservations because I still didn't really like it. I wasn't very good at it. Everything I had done was a struggle. But if Brad had the confidence in me that I could do it, I thought I can do this. So we picked one out, we paid for it, we signed up for it, and Brad sent me a whole training plan with all my workouts. And I really meant to train for it. I really did. But at first I had a few months, you know, why rush into it? I had all the time in the world. And then I got to the point where I had about 6 weeks, and I was supposed to be doing these short runs during the week and then progressively longer runs every weekend to get close to the 13 miles. You know, and then I started to feel kind of sick about the fact that I hadn't been doing it, so I wanted to kind of avoid the whole thing, so I just put it out of my head. And then I had 2 weeks to go, and I was supposed to be tapering down and resting. And you know, I did the resting part, but and it's not like a test. You can't cram for a half marathon. It's not like you can stay up all night running the night before and then go have a successful race. So I didn't know what to do, but Brad said, you can do this, I believe in you. So I said, all right. So we packed up the family, we went to New York for the weekend. It was the Staten Island half marathon. And I was excited because Brad believed in me, I was going to do it. So the morning of the race, I'm in the kitchen with Brad's wife, Lee, who was also a runner, a very good runner. And she said, are you excited? Are you nervous? And I said, well, yeah, but I would feel better. I would just feel better if I had done my long runs. And she said, what? And I said, you know, I'd feel better if I had gotten those long runs in. And she said, honey? And Brad came around. She said, do you know Luanne hasn't done her long runs? And he said, what? And I said, I told you. And he said, I thought you were kidding. So here I was, race day. I had no choice but to go through with it. So we go to the race, and we started. And mile 133 was actually pretty enjoyable. It was a beautiful fall day. All of Staten Island is closed off. Quiet Sunday morning. There are no cars on the road, so I'm having fun catching up with Brad. Lee took off because she's a really good runner. Brad had pledged to stay by my side. So that was fun. About mile 5, all of the other 4,000 runners had gone out and come back, and they were finishing the race as we're on mile 5. And he dumped a pack of lip gloss into my mouth and said it was some kind of energy gel, and that gave me kind of a second wind for a while. At mile 6, I thought that we were very last in the race. At mile 6, I peed my pants a little bit because 2 runners came up from behind us, and one of the runners was a blind gentleman who was running. And the guy who was with him, the blind runner was in running gear, but the guy who was with him was in jeans and loafers. And all I thought was, this is an escort who thought he had to take this guy to the mall today, and now he got there and found out they were running a half marathon. But they were beating us. And the blind runner, the thing that was the most amazing about it was that he was carrying a backpack, a full backpack. Now at this point in the race, I'm so tired. If you had asked me to carry an extra, like a single Cheerio, I would have said no. It's too heavy, too much chafing, I can't bear that much weight. But this guy's carrying a full backpack for 13 miles. And I said to my friend Brad, what do you think that guy has in the backpack? And he said, his seeing eye dog. And that's when I peed my pants a little bit. So mile 8, I got this euphoria. I'm going to finish this, and not only am I going to finish this, but I'm going to finish this running, my version of running, which is more like shuffling the entire way. And I'm ecstatic. I might go for the full 26 miles. Mile 9, the real physical suffering started to set in. My spine fused to my hips at like a 20-degree angle, kind of like the last pope who never really could stand up straight. I started to envision myself as a skeleton. It felt like all of my flesh had melted away, and it was just bone hitting bone for every excruciating step. The insoles in my shoes that once were cushiony just felt like cement at this point. At mile 10, they had taken away all of the mile markers. The other runners had gone home, showered, had lunch, and came back, and they were very gracious in cheering us on and hoping to finish this race. But those last few miles, not knowing where you are and how much distance you have to go, was just probably the most torturous thing that I've ever done in my life. But the only thing that kept me going was seeing that finish line and knowing that I was going to redeem my 8-year-old self, and for once in my life, I'm going to have my name on the internet as having completed a 13-mile half marathon for all time. So I keep going and I keep going. And probably about mile 11, because we don't know where we were, Brad stopped talking to me because the poor guy was now running for as long as it takes a lot of people to finish a full marathon, and we're only doing a half marathon, and he wasn't really prepared for that either. So finally we're running, and it just seems like the end is never coming. And I'm expecting fanfare and running through the archway, and we finally get there. And the finish line's been taken down. And there's Lee, and she saved a bagel for me and some ice for my knees, which was really sweet. But I did it, and that was the end. I couldn't walk for a couple of days. I sort of got the flu on the way home from exerting myself too much. And I got home, and the next day I couldn't wait to pull up the results online and see my name as having accomplished this goal. And we were so slow that they didn't even include our results on the listing. So you know and I know that I'm a runner. Not only am I a runner who can do a half marathon, but I can do it without even training.